saging all the bad energy of 2019 and only bringing the good energy into 2020. Hey guys, and welcome back to my channel. I am so bloody excited. The start of the year is like my favorite time of the year. You feel new energy, you feel motivated. It's such a great time to plan goals. And so that's what I want to talk about today. I want to give you my 5-step process to making and achieving goals. It's not as simple as just like making goals and that's it. There's a couple steps in it. Plus, I have been doing this for the last couple of years, probably the last 2 years. And in the last 2 years, I have achieved the most I ever have. Like, once you are so clear on your goals and you have a practice for them, magical stuff happens. Okay, so if you are someone who wants to make 2020 amazing and great and you have really exciting plans and you just want a little bit of help implementing them and finding out what those plans are and really getting clear on that, this video is for you. So I have 5 steps that I personally use when I am creating my goals and then also how I stick to them throughout the year. Okay, so step number 1, and this is more for the person who's maybe not that clear on their 2020 goals and need some help with that. Personally, I think the biggest step is actually getting clear on what you want, who you want to be in 2020, what you want to achieve, because once you are clear on that, the other steps fall into place. So if you're not clear, it's okay. I have some journal prompts for you to go through. And so what I do is, and this is what I did a couple of days ago, is I sat down with my journal and I had these questions written down and I just journaled about it. I set a timer for about 20 minutes. I put on some music. I had my oil infuser going, so the room smelled really nice. And I just really thought about these. There's no right or wrong answer, and it was really just kind of like scrappy writing. And this is just to see what comes out, because sometimes we don't even know because we've never asked ourselves these questions. Who do I want to show up as in 2020? What habits do I want to bring into 2020? What habits do I want to leave in 2019? What lights me up? What excites me? What do I want to achieve in 2020? And how will I feel if I achieve this goal in 2020? So really get deep and think about these things, because then your actual clear, specific goals will become a lot clearer. All right, step number 2. So now we are pretty clear on the direction and intention we want for 2020. Now let's actually write down our goals. So I remember reading this statistic, and it's something like you are 47% more likely to achieve your goals if you simply write them down. And then there was some sort of percentage where it's like 10% of the population actually write down goals. And so you can imagine why you are seeing other people and they're achieving these like epic things. I guarantee you, they write down their goals. So with the goals, be specific on what, why, and when. So what is the goal? When do you want to achieve the goal? And why? Why do you want to achieve the goal, and how will it make you feel when you achieve the goal? I think it's very important to attach some emotions to goals, so when you are rewriting them or like reading them out, you can feel that emotion. I think that's very important. So I'm going to do a little example goal for you guys just for these steps. So if you guys don't know, I have a podcast. I love my podcast. It's called the Rise and Conquer podcast. It's all about kind of similar stuff to this. So it's like about self-development, mindset, health, fitness, and career. I want to have 250K monthly downloads on the Rise and Conquer podcast by June. So what, when, by June 2020. And then I wrote, because I know the messages I spread are impactful and I want more women to listen and feel empowered. So I've got a why and I've attached some feelings towards that goal. Okay, so now we've written down our goals, we go on to the third step, and this is to make a vision board. So I actually did a YouTube, which I will link, where I made this vision board in 2019, and that has been sitting there all year. Or another thing that you can do, and something that I have personally done this year, is you can create a digital vision board. So I personally did this on Canva, and it was really easy. What I did is I just went to Pinterest, I screenshotted the photos and quotes and stuff about my goals that I wanted. Also had some pictures in there. And then I just created a Canva. I created a blank document and I put the dimensions, the size as my screensaver on my laptop. And then I am making that my screensaver for my laptop, which I can look at it every single day. So this is just very important because it's a great reminder of your goals. So, you know, you're sitting there, maybe you're sitting on your phone and being really unproductive, and then you look at your computer and you've got the screensaver and it's got pictures and words and things that remind you of your goal, and you're like, all right, let's put down the phone and let's get to work. So it's just a great reminder. I personally look at my vision board and really visualize myself like achieving the goals, which we'll get into a tiny bit more. But I really love the aspect of having written down goals and then also having a visual aspect, because I am a visual person. You might just want one or the other. I personally do both. So with the vision board, I pick goals, I pick pictures that match my goals, and then I also just pick stuff that makes sense. So for example, me and Tim are planning a Europe trip for 2020, so I put a lot of like Euro trip photos on there of just a reminder that, you know, we're going to Europe, save money, that sort of jazz too. Usually the categories for a vision board are like personal life, personal goals, career focused goals, financial goals, and then like inspiring words. Okay, so the next step, fourth step, is visualization. So I've already spoken about the vision board, and you can look at the vision board while you do this. But even if you don't do the vision board, I think it is very important to visualize and really feel out your goals. So I'll explain this a little bit more. I don't want to get too woo-woo because I've kind of made this video not really woo-woo and I've made it very practical. But think about it on this way. So I'm very into manifesting and law of attraction, and basically the basis of those things, law of attraction, is like attracts like. You attract the vibes that you are giving out. So for example, if you're really negative, you always have a negative mindset, you will attract negative vibes. Whereas if you're constantly positive, you're constantly vibrating on a positive high vibes, you attract that. I get very specific with my goals and I envision myself as already achieved them, so I can vibrate on that level and attract them. I know that kind of sounds weird, but just trust me on this. So for example, my goal about the downloads for my podcast. How would I feel if I achieved that? I would feel excited. I would feel happy. I would feel empowered because I would be like, okay, you know, I have all these women following the podcast, who listen to the podcast. I would feel a responsibility to make the podcast as best as possible because I've got all these new listeners and downloads and all that sort of stuff. I would envision myself as I have already achieved that, feel those feelings, and then the next step is to feel out those feelings, and then I want you to start showing up as that person. So for example, I feel like we always think, okay, so once I achieve this goal, you know, I'll be happy or I'll feel the feelings. But what you're missing is you need to feel those feelings now, even if you haven't achieved them, because that will put you on a vibration to achieve them. I hope this is making sense. It really makes sense to me. So for example, like I just said, if I, achieved my goals of those downloads, I would really feel a responsibility to make the podcast like really epic and, for the women listening to the podcast. So because that is a goal, I am going to start showing up as that person who has achieved that goal now, even though I haven't achieved that goal. So for example, I'm going to make sure in 2020, a great example, because this is like actually true, is I try and get a podcast out every single Monday, but then sometimes something happens and it like comes out on Tuesday or Wednesday. So 2020, if that's my goal, I am going to make sure every single Monday, the women who listen to my podcast can count on a podcast coming out on that day. I'm going to make sure my guest list for 2020 is epic and really engaging and really impactful people. So I'm going to do all that now, like I already have the responsibility of achieving that goal. Just to break down step number 4, it's visualizing, feeling like you have already achieved the goal, and then thinking, how can you show up now as someone who has already achieved that goal, even though you haven't? The last and final step is to be very practical about your goals. So for example, you've done all these steps, you've done your vision board, you've written down your goals. How are you actually going to make sure that you stick to these goals? My steps personally is I set an alarm, and every single morning at 9:30, I have an alarm that goes off that says read and write your goals. I do the alarm, I sit there, I rewrite my goals, or if I don't have enough time, I will just like read them over, look at my vision board. I usually put a timer on for 20 minutes and I spend 20 minutes doing that. And every single day I have an alarm that reminds me. Another thing to think about is putting a plan in place to achieve that goal. So kind of like I said in the previous step, if my goal is to, have all these new downloads on my podcast, I need to think about what actual steps am I going to implement to achieve that goal. So the steps might be something like I said, like having a meeting with Mel and really fleshing out what guests we want, going after really big, impactful guests so people want to listen, making sure I'm uploading every single week. So maybe there's some sort of plan that I have to do to make sure I upload. So you've got your goal. The last step is to really flesh out the little bits so you can achieve it, and then put plans in place to achieve it. Like I said about setting the alarms. So another great example of my goal is, maybe I need an alarm that goes off every Wednesday that says, get the new podcast ready for Monday, or something like that. Like, break down your goals and flesh out how you're going to do them. Because if you don't do that and you just have a goal sitting there and you don't have a plan on how you're going to do it, literally what's the point? And I hope these steps were clear. I wanted to make this video really quick and simple because you should, be pausing, going and do this, or now you're going to go and do it, and that will take quite a bit of time. Guys, I honestly spent a good whole afternoon doing this. Like it was more close to a day, because I think I had 10 goals that I literally wrote and then fleshed out and did a vision board and all that sort of stuff. Probably not 10, a little bit less, but spend some time and really go through this, really focus on visualizing, on feeling the feelings like you've already achieved, vibrating on that level, put in the effort, because putting in this little bit effort now and making sure you actually stick to these practices are going to make such a big difference. If you think about it, what you focus on grows. So, that great example of, before you buy the car you want, you don't even notice it. And then you decide one day, you're like, okay, I want this car. And you start seeing it everywhere on the road and you're like, oh my God, everyone has this car. Like, I did the exact same thing with my new car. And I was like, literally everyone has this car. And they don't. It's just because you have told your brain that you want want something and it starts focusing on it. So this is why it's so important to do these practices and then also make sure you're implementing the actions and, you know, rereading your goals every single morning, because your brain will start to pick out things that make sense in regards to your goals, little steps like that. It's all really important. So I hope this video has been helpful. As you guys know, like, planning goals and all of this sort of stuff is like one of my favorite things to do. So I loved filming this. I hope it's helpful. If you did like it, please give me a thumbs up. And if you haven't subscribed to my channel, it really helps me out. And also leave a comment of a change that you're going to make in 2020, or if you're going to show up as a different person, or if you have a really exciting goal, because I'd love to know. I love coming back to you guys and hearing about it. I hope you have an awesome day or night whenever you're watching this, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye for now.